There are battles in life that no amount of worry, fear, or human effort can solve. And many people are exhausted today because they are trying to carry burdens that were never meant for them to carry alone. But peace begins when you finally stop fighting impossible battles in your own strength and trust God to handle what you cannot control. True peace begins the moment you stop trying to control every impossible situation and start trusting God with what is beyond your strength. Many people live under constant pressure because they feel responsible for fixing everything themselves. They carry burdens in their minds every hour of the day, trying to predict outcomes, solve problems, and prevent failure. But the human heart was never designed to carry endless fear, worry, and control. There are situations in life that no amount of human effort can completely solve. Some problems are simply too heavy for human wisdom alone. You can think about them constantly, lose sleep over them, and exhaust yourself emotionally trying to force answers, but still remain powerless to change the outcome. That is why many people feel mentally drained and spiritually weary. They are trying to control things that were never fully within their control. People often believe that if they worry enough, prepare enough, or work hard enough, they can guarantee peace and security. But peace does not come from controlling everything around you. Real peace comes from trusting God even when life feels uncertain. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that not every battle belongs to you. Some situations require surrender rather than struggle. Human nature wants control because control creates the illusion of safety. We want to know exactly how things will work out. We want immediate answers to difficult questions. We want certainty about the future. But faith grows strongest in seasons where control is impossible. There are moments when God allows situations to become impossible, so you will finally stop depending entirely on your own understanding. Sometimes the pressure becomes so great that you realize your own strength is no longer enough. And in those moments, you are faced with a choice. Continue living in fear and exhaustion, or release the burden into God's hands. Many people pray for peace while secretly continuing to carry fear in their hearts. They ask God to help them, but they never truly surrender the situation. They continue overthinking, panicking, and trying to manage every detail themselves. But surrender means trusting God even when you cannot yet see the answer. Faith is not just believing God exists. Faith is believing He is able to handle what you cannot. When you trust God, it changes the condition of your heart even before circumstances improve. Your mind becomes calmer because your confidence is no longer resting entirely upon visible results. You begin realizing that God sees what you cannot see. He understands the future while you only understand the present moment. What feels impossible to you is not difficult for Him. People become emotionally overwhelmed because they constantly focus on the size of the problem instead of the greatness of God. Fear magnifies obstacles. Anxiety makes situations appear larger and more hopeless than they truly are. But trust changes perspective. It reminds you that no circumstance is beyond God's power. There are doors He can open that no human effort could force open. There are solutions He can create beyond human understanding. There are ways He can restore broken situations that no person could repair alone. But you cannot experience peace while holding tightly to fear and control at the same time. Sometimes God's greatest work happens in seasons of waiting. Waiting tests patience, faith, and trust, because human beings naturally want immediate results. But delay does not mean abandonment. Silence does not mean God is absent. There are moments when He is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet understand. A seed planted beneath the ground appears inactive before growth finally becomes visible. In the same way, God often works quietly before breakthrough arrives. He may be preparing opportunities, changing circumstances, strengthening your character, or protecting you from outcomes you cannot yet see. If you demand immediate understanding for everything, you will constantly live frustrated and anxious. Peace comes when you stop demanding control over every outcome and start trusting that God's wisdom is greater than your own understanding. That does not mean you stop taking responsibility. Faith does not mean laziness or passivity. You still pray, work, act wisely, and do what you can. But after you have done your part, you release the burden of the outcome into God's hands instead of carrying endless anxiety. Many people are physically tired not because of hard work, but because of emotional pressure. Their minds never rest. They are constantly worrying about tomorrow, replaying problems, and imagining worst-case scenarios. But worry has never created peace. It only steals strength from today. No amount of fear can guarantee tomorrow. No amount of panic can solve impossible situations. No amount of anxiety can force answers to appear faster, but trust brings calmness into the heart. There is something powerful about a person who chooses peace in the middle of uncertainty. That kind of peace does not come from perfect circumstances. It comes from confidence in God's ability to handle what human strength cannot. And the moment you stop trying to carry impossible burdens alone, you begin discovering a deeper peace than anything control could ever provide. Letting go is not giving up. It is choosing to surrender fear, anxiety, and emotional burdens to God instead of allowing them to control your life. Many people misunderstand surrender. They think letting go means weakness, failure, or passivity. But true surrender is actually one of the greatest acts of faith a person can demonstrate. It takes strength to release what you desperately want to control and trust God with outcomes you cannot fully understand. Human nature constantly fights for control. People want certainty about the future. They want clear answers, immediate solutions, and guaranteed outcomes. They want to know how problems will resolve, when prayers will be answered, and why difficult situations happen. But life does not always provide immediate explanations. There are moments when circumstances feel confusing, painful, and completely beyond human understanding. And it is during those moments that fear begins growing inside the heart. Fear whispers that everything depends entirely on you. Anxiety convinces you to carry burdens day and night. Worry tells you to prepare for every possible disaster. But no human mind was created to carry that kind of pressure constantly. When people try to control every outcome, they slowly become emotionally exhausted. Their thoughts become restless. Their peace disappears. Even when nothing dangerous is happening in the present moment, their mind remains trapped in fear about tomorrow. That is why surrender is necessary. Surrender means recognizing your human limitations and trusting God's unlimited power. It means accepting that there are situations your own strength cannot fix. Some battles cannot be won through overthinking, panic, or human effort alone. Some doors will only open through God's timing and power. Many people spend years carrying emotional burdens they were never meant to hold alone. They carry family problems, financial fears, relationship struggles, disappointments, regrets, and uncertainty about the future. And eventually the pressure becomes overwhelming because they are trying to carry life entirely in their own strength. But peace begins when you stop carrying what belongs in God's hands. This does not mean problems instantly disappear. It means your relationship with the problem changes. Instead of living consumed by fear, you begin living with trust. Instead of allowing anxiety to dominate your thoughts, you begin placing confidence in God's ability to guide you through what you cannot fully control. Faith is not pretending difficulties do not exist. Faith is believing God is greater than those difficulties. There are seasons when life feels impossible. You may pray and still not see immediate answers. You may trust God and still experience delays. You may feel uncertain about how everything will work out. But faith continues believing even when visible evidence is incomplete. That kind of trust changes the condition of your spirit. When you truly surrender fear to God, your heart becomes calmer. You stop feeling the need to control every detail. You stop constantly replaying worst-case scenarios in your mind. You stop living emotionally trapped by uncertainty. Many people lose peace because they are addicted to control. They believe that if they think hard enough, prepare enough, or worry enough, they can protect themselves from pain. But control is often an illusion. No matter how carefully you plan life, there will still be moments beyond your power. And that is why trust is necessary. Trust says, even when I do not understand, I believe God still knows the way. Trust says, even when I feel weak, I believe God remains strong. Trust says, even when circumstances appear impossible, I believe nothing is impossible for God. Surrender also means releasing emotional burdens from the past. Some people continue carrying guilt, regret, bitterness, and disappointment long after painful situations have ended. They replay mistakes repeatedly in their minds. They punish themselves emotionally for things they cannot change anymore. But healing cannot grow where constant self-condemnation exists. You cannot move forward while carrying yesterday's burdens every day. There are moments when you must stop reliving painful memories and place them into God's hands. Some things are beyond your ability to fix retroactively. Some answers may never fully come. Some wounds require faith before understanding. And that is difficult because human beings naturally want closure and certainty. But peace does not always come through complete understanding. Sometimes peace comes through trusting God despite unanswered questions. One of the greatest transformations happens when a person chooses faith over fear repeatedly. Fear may still appear, but it no longer controls every decision. Anxiety may still knock at the door of the mind, but it no longer becomes the ruler of the heart. You begin learning how to rest emotionally even in uncertain seasons. That kind of peace is powerful because it does not depend on perfect circumstances. It depends on trust in God's character and wisdom. You begin understanding that God can see what you cannot see. He understands the future while you only understand the present moment. And because of that, surrender becomes easier. You stop trying to force outcomes. You stop fighting battles entirely in your own strength. You stop carrying emotional pressure that is slowly destroying your peace. Instead, you begin walking through life with quiet confidence, knowing that God is able to handle situations far beyond human ability. You begin realizing that faith is not weakness. It is the courage to trust God when control is no longer possible. And the moment you release fear, anxiety, and emotional burdens into God's hands, you begin discovering a peace that human control could never provide.